welcome to IndieCapitol. I'm Pamela Nash, and this is Erin Essenmacher of Women in Film and Video. Erin, thank you for coming.
Hi there, I'm happy to be here.
Tell us a little bit about what is your involvement with Women in Film and Video.
Well, Women in Film and Video, the organization, has been around for 35 years, which we're really proud of. I have been involved, actually, in some form or fashion with WIF for 20 plus years. Actually, I grew up in this area, and my mom was a filmmaker, and she actually was very involved with WIF and was on the board of WIF. And there used to be a big women's focused film festival called Women Make Movies that WIF put on years ago, and my mother helped run that. So I kind of grew up in WIF. I would come to events and take tickets or go to the office and lick envelopes. So I think it was sort of in my DNA, basically, from growing up. And then as I grew up in this community and became a filmmaker and a production professional myself, I was used WIF as a resource. We'd go to WIF events. We have a great listserv that's been going on for years. That was a great resource to me in my 20s as I was starting out my career. And then I left the DC area. I lived on the West Coast for a while and in New York for a while. And I've just come back to DC in the past couple of years, and now I'm proud to say that I'm on the board of WIF, which is a great honor, and I'm loving being able to help serve the organization from this perspective now.
And what is the membership base? Because it's not just strictly limited to women.
That's right. We welcome both women and men. We have around 1,000 members, and it's really another thing that I'm really proud of, and I think makes it such a vibrant community is. Well, a couple things. Number one, our membership base is made up of not just women and men, but professionals that represent almost every discipline and facet that touches the production community, whether it's producers and directors, writers, editors, animators, makeup artists, people even on the professional services side, whether it's people in the legal profession that maybe might work with media folks. So it's a real broad base in that perspective. From that perspective, it's also a broad base in terms of experience, which I think is a real strength we have. We have 3 tiers of membership, including membership at a discounted rate for students. So I think if you're just starting out in your career, and I can say from experience that when I was just starting out in my career, WIF was a really powerful resource for me, and we've continued that. Then there's sort of like a mid-career level of membership, and then we also have what's called an executive membership. And we have women and men who have been in the business for 10 years plus, who can also who can now really serve as mentors to some of the younger folks, but also sort of when you're at that level in your career, almost no matter what you do, you're always looking for peers that you can bounce ideas off of, brainstorm with, get best practices that can be resources to you. So we're also a resource to those that are more established in their career and would be executive members. So we really just sort of have something for everyone if you're working in any facet of the media community in DC.
And you have a lot of programs. We're going to talk about a few of them, but give us a general idea of like what the spectrum of programs is that WIF does.
Yeah, we do, again, a broad base of programs, both in terms of the scope. So we have big annual programs. We do a Women of Vision Awards gala dinner every year where we recognize women both nationally and internationally who have achieved great impactful things in the media community. We do a Script DC conference every year where we bring in a lot of big names from Hollywood and other places who are really established that can help mentor the folks that are there. Last year we had people like Dara Marks, who's a really well-known script consultant. We had Lauren Versel from Lucky Monkey Productions, who did films like Vamps and has worked with Amy Heckerling and Alicia Silverstone. So we try and bring in some big names and really some names that may not necessarily always come to DC. As someone who's lived and worked in places like LA and New York, you have those resources available to you a little more readily because those folks are working there. Sometimes in a place like DC that has a very vibrant production community, but maybe is more focused on nonfiction or is just a little bit smaller, you don't run into those people every day. So we put a lot of time and energy into bringing those people here. As an independent filmmaker myself, I know that resources are usually an issue. You don't have, $2,000 to fly to LA to go to a big film conference, so we bring those people here to the community. So those are some of the bigger events we do. And then on a monthly basis, we have a program called Wednesday One, which is usually the first Wednesday of the month, and we do a broad base of things. So everything from tax tips for independent media people to bringing in development executives from the big networks here to talk about what they're looking for in original programming. We vary it up. So again, whether you're a scriptwriter, a makeup artist, a producer, at the PA level, whatever you're doing, we try to really look at the year and kind of make sure that we have a balance of offerings so that we're really providing something for everyone in the community.
And you touched on mentoring, and I know you have some programs specifically targeted at new filmmakers and young filmmakers.
Yes.
So we want to talk a little bit about those.
Okay. So we really believe that it's important to kind of help train the next generation and be a resource and a mentoring resource. It's also really important to us in terms of our mission statement to be providing positive role models for women and girls in the media. And, part of the way that you do that is through working with young people. So two of the sort of marquee programs we have where we work with youth in the DC community are the Kids World Film Festival, which is kind of a two-part program. We basically start by taking younger kids, elementary school aged kids, and talking to them about media literacy and being able to look at media with a more critical eye, and not just, all of us, not just kids, all of us are so bombarded with so many kinds of media, ways to consume it. It's coming at you all the time. I travel all the time for work, and I can't even get into an elevator now without there being TV on, right? So really talking to kids and helping them think critically about the images they're seeing, and to not just take everything at face value, to start to think a little bit more about the media that they're consuming. So we do that as sort of the first part, the foundation, and then we take those kids and screen short films for them so that they can kind of see some independent work and also start to put those critical thinking, media literacy skills to the test. So that's Kids World Film Festival. The other program we do that's geared more towards high school age students in the DC area is called IndieCapitol. And it's such a cool program. We take a diversity of kids. A lot of times when we're looking at where we pull kids from for the program, we particularly are looking at schools that maybe don't have a robust media program anymore, that's been either it never was there or it's been the victim of budget cuts, so they don't have the opportunity to get media training in high school. So we bring them in, and then we pair them with a nonprofit in the community that maybe doesn't always have the resources to produce their own media. So there's a real robust synergy that happens in terms of helping the kids and helping these nonprofits. Then the kids go through a sort of rigorous weekly program on the weekends where we use volunteers from our community who are more seasoned to teach them about editing, producing, directing, and at the end they make their own public service announcement for one of these nonprofits. So it's really empowering for the kids because not only are they learning these skills, but at the end of it they can kind of look at that PSA and say, I need this. And then we usually do a screening of that work, so they also get a chance for the public to see some of that and get some recognition. And then the nonprofits are free to use those PSAs for fundraising or whatever uses that they can use to build resources for their own organization. So it really helps the DC community in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, it sounds like an everybody wins kind of proposition.
Yeah, and that program has been going on for over a decade and has been really successful.
So I wanted to just touch back a little bit on DC Scripts, which is a really big program for this area. And it is technically a writing program, but there's a lot of things going on for other producers and directors and actors, and I just want to talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Script DC is an annual event that we do. It is geared more towards script writers, and we've done some things to vary it up. One of the things I love that I think WIF has helped kind of fill a little bit of a gap is because DC is so focused on nonfiction programming, and I'm biased because that's my genre, and I think that's great, but I have a lot of friends and colleagues who are working in fiction, and I just, again, because we're not LA or New York, there aren't as many resources here, or there haven't historically been, for folks working in fiction. And I think WIF is actually doing multiple things, I think, to address that, but Script DC is a big one. So it's a balance. There's something for both fiction and nonfiction. But again, we bring in some pretty heavy hitters to both not just teach workshops, which is a big part of it and I think is important, but really to kind of dive in with folks and help critique their scripts. Give them really hands-on advice that they can use to then go back and actually not just learn more about script writing in general, but actually take the next step with whatever it is they're working on. So we've gotten great feedback from the attendees, and I think that it's a really unique program that I don't that kind of fills a niche that I don't see being filled anywhere else in the community.
I realize most of your programs are very broad and open to everybody, but you do have certain niche areas like the film registry and your specific focus on more recognition from women filmmakers, and I want to talk a little bit about that.
Okay. So again, one of the mission statements, or in our mission statement, one of the core tenets for WIF is to sort of raise the profile of women and women's work. As we know, this is still a very male-dominated field. You only need to watch the Oscars to get a flavor for that. So it's really important to us to both elevate and recognize the work that women are doing in media. So, for example, we work with the National Film Registry. As folks may know, they basically have they basically recommend to the National Archives every year a list of films. It's kind of like being inducted in the Hall of Fame, like the Baseball Hall of Fame or the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's like, here are some core movies that we feel like are such, gems of American pop culture, American cinematic history, that we want them preserved for the ages. That's what the registry is. So we work really diligently every year to sort of advocate and recommend to the archives really quality films directed by women. So a great example is last year, because of a push by WIF and by our members, it was a very grassroots kind of groundswell thing. We were able to get A League of Their Own, directed by Penny Marshall, into the National Registry, which was great. And we're actually looking at bringing Penny Marshall here to DC to do a special screening of A League of Their Own later this year.
Wow.
So
They would love to have her.
yeah.
And tell me about what you're doing now. What are you working on?
So I am working on an independent film about three teachers from Brooklyn who used to work at charter schools in Brooklyn that have quit their jobs and are going on the road for a year to visit schools all over the country and basically figure out what's working in education. Their project is called the Odyssey Initiative, which is the working title for the film. And they're literally visiting schools in all 50 states and creating a web resource for teachers so that they can kind of not feel so alone out there and understand some of the more innovative things that teachers are doing, not just in charter schools, but in public schools as well. And then these three teachers are going to use the information and the learnings that they're gathering to open their own school in Brooklyn in 2 years. So I'm basically just following them on their journey and, learning a lot about and exposing a lot about what's really going well in the U.S. education system, but I think also, too, just capturing the passion and the drive that they have and what's motivating them. I think that teachers in the last few years, to me, seem like they've kind of been getting a bum rap, and I think these guys are so passionate about their craft, it really comes through on film.
So if we want to find out more about WIF, or we want to find out more about your projects, where should we go?
So we have we are on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Meetup, we're on LinkedIn. We also have a website, which is wif.org. And you can find out all information about all of our programs there. There's information on how to become a member, information about some of our past programs and speakers we've brought in. So it's a great resource.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being with us this
Thank
afternoon.
you. I enjoyed it.
For IndieCapitol, I'm Pamela Nash, and this is Erin Essenmacher of Women in Film and Video.